The silence surrounding Jin BTS did not break gently. It cracked open with a revelation so abrupt that it immediately raised a destabilizing question. How could a project of this scale move forward without HYBE's public acknowledgement? And what does that imply about the company's broader strategy? What initially appeared as scattered leaks has now coalesced into a pattern too consistent to dismiss, suggesting that Jin's next project is not a routine solo release, but a structural pivot capable of reshaping HYBE's long-term narrative for BTS. For months, the official storyline was simple and controlled. Jin was fulfilling his mandatory military service, absent from public schedules, with no confirmed creative activity beyond what had already been archived. Yet behind that calm exterior, fragments began to surface: technical metadata anomalies, unintentional internal markers, and synchronized hints from multiple BTS-related channels that did not align with the dormant production cycle. These indicators, while never confirmed outright, point to a project that was being developed quietly, deliberately, and with unusual urgency. What makes these leaks consequential is not merely their existence, but their timing. HYBE has carefully structured the post-group hiatus era as a sequence of individual artistic chapters, each reinforcing the autonomy and growth of the members while preserving the integrity of the group brand. Jin's alleged project, however, appears positioned not as another chapter, but as a hinge, something designed to connect what came before with what is intended to follow. If accurate, this reframes his role from participant to anchor. Sources familiar with the internal creative process describe a work that blends music and cinematic storytelling, reportedly shaped during periods typically assumed to be inactive. The implication is significant. Jin's absence from public view may have been less a pause and more a recalibration. Rather than stepping away from the BTS narrative, he may have been refining a contribution meant to carry exceptional symbolic weight. This would explain why the material, if released soon after discharge, could feel unusually complete, emotionally dense, and strategically placed. Equally striking is the rumored involvement of the other 6 members, not as visible collaborators, but as conceptual contributors. This distinction matters. Instead of featuring appearances designed to drive metrics, the reported structure suggests something deeper: advisory roles, tonal input, and shared thematic alignment. Such a model preserves Jin's solo identity while embedding the collective DNA of BTS beneath the surface. If true, it represents a sophisticated approach to sustaining group cohesion without undermining individual momentum. HYBE's response, or lack thereof, has only intensified scrutiny. Historically, the company has addressed speculative narratives quickly, often issuing neutral clarifications to stabilize expectations. In this case, the absence of denial has been interpreted by observers as strategic restraint rather than uncertainty. Silence, in this context, functions less as avoidance and more as containment, suggesting that an internal timeline may now be under pressure due to premature exposure. From an industry perspective, the potential impact is substantial. A project that bridges solo eras while subtly recentering the group narrative would recalibrate how post-hiatus continuity is managed in K-pop at the highest level. It would signal that the individual phase was never an endpoint, but a deliberate expansion designed to feed back into a larger, more resilient collective identity. Jin's role as the eldest member gives this transition added resonance, positioning him as both a symbolic and structural connector. The thematic expectations surrounding the project further reinforce its significance. Jin's artistic history consistently balances vulnerability and restraint, often addressing separation, endurance, and quiet resolve. A work shaped during military service, informed by distance from the stage yet proximity to reflection, would naturally carry a different emotional gravity. If paired with subtle references to BTS's shared past, it could operate simultaneously as personal expression and collective memory. Ultimately, these leaks do more than generate anticipation. They challenge assumptions about transparency, timing, and control in global pop strategy. Whether every detail proves accurate is secondary to what the situation reveals about perception management and narrative design. Jin's next project, as it currently appears, is not just content awaiting release. It is a strategic inflection point, one that may redefine how HYBE guides BTS from fragmentation back toward unity, not through announcement, but through meaning. Yet the most unsettling dimension of this unfolding narrative is not the scale of the alleged project itself, but the speed with which audiences have embraced it as truth, should that reflexive acceptance concern us. And have we paused long enough to ask why we believe what we believe? When leaks circulate with cinematic precision and emotional appeal, are we responding to evidence or to a storyline carefully optimized for virality and engagement? At this point, it becomes necessary to interrogate our own reactions. Did the fragments shared across TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, and other platforms convince us because they were credible or because they aligned perfectly with what we wanted to hear? When metadata tags, blurred screenshots, and insider sources appear in quick succession, do they constitute verification, or are they simply familiar tropes of digital sensationalism repackaged for a fandom eager for meaning? The architecture of modern media invites another uncomfortable question: who benefits most from uncertainty? In an attention-driven ecosystem, ambiguity is not a flaw, it is fuel. If HYBE remains silent, is it because a grand reveal is imminent, or because silence itself sustains conversation, speculation, and algorithmic momentum? And if audiences continue to amplify unverified claims, do companies even need to confirm or deny anything at all? Consider how easily narrative authority has shifted from official statements to decentralized fan interpretation. When collective analysis becomes indistinguishable from collective imagination, where does journalism end and storytelling begin? Are we witnessing investigative curiosity or a feedback loop where assumptions harden into facts simply because they are repeated often enough? If enough people believe something is true, does that belief alone grant it legitimacy? This moment also challenges our understanding of credibility. Many of the sources fueling this discourse are not malicious. They are passionate, creative, and deeply invested. But does passion equate to accuracy? When content creators frame speculation with academic language and dramatic pacing, are they informing audiences or persuading them? And as viewers, are we critically evaluating the claims or surrendering judgment in exchange for emotional satisfaction? The rumored symbolism of Jin's role, the alleged strategic brilliance of HYBE, and the supposed inevitability of a narrative crescendo all sound compelling. But should compelling narratives be mistaken for confirmed realities? If the same information were stripped of dramatic language and viral formatting, would it still persuade us? Or is the power of this story rooted less in data and more in delivery? It is also worth questioning our tolerance for uncertainty. Why does the absence of confirmation feel intolerable, and why are we so quick to fill gaps with conjecture? In a digital culture conditioned to expect constant updates, does silence automatically imply secrecy? Or have we trained ourselves to distrust quiet simply because it does not perform well online? As this discourse grows louder, the ethical responsibility shifts toward both creators and consumers. Should creators clearly distinguish speculation from substantiated reporting, even if doing so weakens engagement? And as consumers, do we hold ourselves accountable for sharing content that may be incomplete?